Train Dreams was a good example for me of, like, I guess as I get older, I'm like, all right, well, what's suitable for me to play? Not looking at it from the perspective of the conversation we just had, but like, what do I connect with? You know, and the director of the film didn't realize that I had read the novella like 5 years earlier.
Oh.
I tried to get my hands on the rights to it. And of
Really?
course, the film deals with one of the worst possible losses you could ever go through, the loss of
Trees.
people close to you. Loss of trees. Yeah. And
mostly trees, but then there's the thing with the wife and the kid.
And I'd become a dad since the director reached out to me. And so even though I'm playing a logger, I'm like, you know, trudging around pretending I'm a tougher guy than I really am. On an emotional level, it's wrapped up in my greatest fear. And I was like, well, I realized how much as an actor I've always tried to hide behind funny walks and costumes, as in like really, really like not show any side of who I really am because I feel like that's a little bit dull, and just like be like Black Mass is a good example, you know, playing a crazy like, you know, FBI agent or playing Buchanan in Gatsby and they're like energetically, you know, like, because I love character actors. I've always loved character actors. Train Dreams was just a far more personal thing for me.
Again, it's not my field. I love being entertained. And if it's entertaining, I don't care if it's from the method acting or, you know, I love Black Mass. You know, I love the character. I love the whole movie.
Yeah.
So I didn't really care. But then I like Train Dreams too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's obviously, I mean, you are obviously on a deeper emotional level because it's an emotional movie. It's a hard movie to, if somebody says, and you know, whenever you're out to dinner with people and, hey, you've seen any good movies?
Yeah.
And if somebody says, yeah, I saw blah, 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 and I go, oh, my first question is always, what's that about? Just tell me what it's about.
Yeah, the train pitch, kind of like the being on the bus pitch, the quick pitch. It's not an easy one.
It's not an easy one.
No.
I mean, what would you say? Like a guy 100 years ago has a rough life.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's born nothing special and dies nothing special in this world. and in between...
I'm a studio exec writing the check right now.
In between, he gets glimpses of happiness.
Yeah.
Which then disappear.
Yeah.
But, you know, the reason why it hits such a nerve is that, and here's a deep question, like, it shows that there's a lot of grief, at least in America, and I'm sure in a lot of places in the world. I mean, that's what people connect to. It's like this it's a movie about grief, and people are, you know, why are so many people in this modern world hurting so bad that they relate to this guy who's got a really rough life from 100 years ago?
Yeah.
That's the question.
The answer for me...
A lot of sadness out there.
Yeah. And, you know, here's the one thing that I think sets Train Dreams apart is we go to the movies and we watch stories about extraordinary people, generals or, you know...
Superheroes.
And talking about Australian movies, interestingly enough, someone pointed out Australian movies which are quite small in their scope quite often, unless you're talking about George Miller or Baz Luhrmann. They say American movies are about people who are going to save the world or save the universe. And Australian movies are about the person who's going to save the local cricket club. And it's true. But you can root for them just the same. And it's a little bit more kind of a smaller bubble.
Much more relatable.
But Train Dreams puts at the center of the movie 99.9% of who the audience is, which is the ordinary human being who's not going to have a plaque, not going to have a monument built about them, and celebrates the majesty of that. Now, what I have noticed too is that young people who haven't experienced, it's not about age, I mean, young people can experience devastating loss. But generally the people who haven't experienced any of the real blows that knock you to your knees in life see the film as quite sad. People who have experienced loss or some kind of grief see the film as quite hopeful, because what it does is also show you the power of rebirth and regrowth. And as Clint, the director,
like a forest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the analogy is very clear.
Well, it's plain that that's what he was going for, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
And the idea of just having to get up some days and put one foot in front of the other because there is an alternative, which is you tap out of life or you just find a way to absorb yourself back into the world. And I believe that the world moves and turns and swallows events up, and each day makes it a little bit easier, you know. It's a little bit grim, but there's something beautiful about the resilience of human beings.
Yeah, which we all need, you know. I mean, no one wins the game of life 11-0.
Yeah.
If you win it at all.
Yeah. And there's so much suffering right now. And it's so relative. I have days where I'm like, I crumble about this and that. And then the perspective of life, obviously, I think we all, I don't know about you, but I often find at my own fault and sometimes my own savior, compare myself to other people. I think it's a natural human thing. It's like, I'm okay because, you know, if you compare yourself to people below you in their suffering or whatever, that somehow...
in other words, you're saying to yourself, I don't deserve to feel bad because this guy has it worse than me.
Why am I playing a violin for myself?
That's stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Pain is pain. Yes, we could acknowledge rationally in our rational mind, there are, of course, people doing worse than you. And whoever that guy is, there's somebody doing worse than them.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of shit out there.
And the cruelty of kind of having the Schadenfreude of like looking at people above you like you want to dismantle them or something because they're, for some reason, even though they're disconnected to you, they're the reason for your pain or your suffering.
No, you shouldn't feel guilty about if you have legitimately something to feel bad about, and we all do in this game of life. There's also, I feel, among each succeeding generation, which actually has it easier in most ways, there is a complete lack of perspective about what actually is hurting you and what is actually painful.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is these kids are such pussies. But it's true. I mean, the things that they complain about and think are rough, you know, as they're ordering from Grubhub every day, and it's, you know, they have their food brought to them, and, you know, remember during COVID, like, we're all in it together. No, we're not. Half the people are sitting home in their pajamas during this crisis and having other people bring them the food. But they're just sitting home in their pajamas, day drinking and eating takeout food.
Yeah.
Other people... yes, are having it rough, like your character, not quite that much. And that's another thing they lack perspective in knowing is like the advances that we have made in the 100 years since, I mean, when is that? It's right before World War I when the movie starts.
Yeah, early 1900s.
Yeah, early 1900s, right. And we see it up until the space age, which is great.
Yeah.
Because you see the perspective of a character and life it just does get easier. I mean, 100 years ago, a hot shower was a rarity.
Yeah. But, you know, you realize too, by you know, so we made the movie, you think it's kind of special, we had a special time doing it. It's not until you share it with an audience, start having conversations with people, you realize why it resonates, you know. There's stuff in the film that talks about how fast the world is moving and changing. And, of course, we're talking about the 1900s, so what's fast and moving about the world is a man goes to the moon and there's telephones and there's different modes of transport. I remember...
and antibiotics.
And
toilets.
Yeah.
And socks.
Yeah. There's a thing about a guy, he drops dead, and the narrator in the film says that if he'd have experienced this sort of like, you know, 5 years or a decade later, they would have caught it because of medical advancement. You know, at one point in the film, stare at a chainsaw and don't know how to start it. And it's like me staring at AI, wondering whether it's going to change my industry and how the fuck do I use it. And I remember my grandmother when I first pointed a video camera at her and she froze. And I realized she froze because she thought I was taking a still photo of her.
Oh.
And that was a baffling move of technology for her. And now look where we are. It's fucking crazy.